Pain doesn't just hurt, it completely alters the fabric of who you are. When life hits you with one devastating blow after another, it changes the way you look at the world, the way you treat yourself, and the way you interact with everyone around you. After a while, it starts to feel like the original version of you was completely washed away, leaving behind only invisible scars and heavy emotional baggage that the rest of the world cannot see. You walk through crowded rooms feeling like you're carrying a mountain on your back, while everyone else just sees a normal person walking by. If you are sitting there right now feeling the crushing weight of everything you have ever endured, I need you to understand something very clearly. This heavy burden does not mean you are broken. It doesn't mean you are weak, and it absolutely does not define your character or limit your future. What it actually means is that you have been forced to quietly build a massive, unbreakable reservoir of resilience, courage, and inner power just to survive. You didn't ask for the struggle, but you adapted to it anyway. The trials you went through were just brutal chapters in a much larger story, and they have shaped you into someone far more complex and capable than you realize. Whether you are still trapped in the thick of the chaos, just trying to find your footing, or finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, you need to recognize that your survival has fundamentally rewired you. There is a specific set of hidden traits, psychological coping mechanisms, and unique strengths that only develop after a person has crawled through life's most intense fires. And understanding these traits is the first step to unlocking your true power. The very first major shift that happens after you survive severe hardship is the development of a profound, almost supernatural sense of hyper-empathy. It is as if your painful past has gifted you with an emotional radar that is constantly scanning the environment around you. Without even trying, you instantly pick up on the smallest, most subtle changes in other people. A split-second drop in their vocal tone, a nervous flicker in their eyes, or a sudden tightening of their body language. You notice the pain that people are desperately trying to hide from the rest of the world because you know exactly what it feels like to hurt in absolute silence. Because you know the agony of feeling completely alone, invisible, and misunderstood, a deep instinctual drive awakens within you to ensure that nobody else ever has to feel that way around you. You want to be the person you desperately needed when you were going through your worst moments. This intense compassion is a beautiful, deeply human gift, but it comes with a dangerous trap that you have to be extremely careful of. It can easily warp into a full-blown savior complex. This happens when your natural urge to help others mutates into an uncontrollable, exhausting need to rescue every broken person you cross paths with, trying to shield them from the hardships, discomfort, or emotional distress of reality. This isn't just about being a people pleaser or trying to avoid a fight. It is a subconscious mechanism where you attempt to heal your own unhealed past by fixing the present lives of everyone else. The brutal truth is that walking around with a savior complex turns you into an immediate target, leaving you wide open to being emotionally drained, manipulated, and taken advantage of by users, narcissists, and people who will gladly let you carry their weight until you collapse. You have to realize that you cannot fix a broken person who isn't ready to fix themselves, and tearing your own piece apart to save someone else will only end up breaking you again. Your compassion is a superpower, but without strict, unapologetic boundaries, it becomes your downfall. Protecting your energy, setting hard limits, and learning to say no isn't a selfish act. It is the ultimate form of self-care and a vital necessity for your own survival and long-term healing journey. The next major shift that takes place after you've survived deep emotional pain is the creation of a guarded heart. When you have been burned, betrayed, or let down by the people you trusted most, your mind makes an executive decision. It vows to never let you be blindsided like that again. To enforce this vow, you start building massive emotional walls. You stop giving away your trust freely, and instead, you keep new people at a safe, calculated distance. You become a master at keeping conversations polite but superficial, rarely letting anyone look at what's actually happening behind the curtain. I need you to understand that carrying a guarded heart is not a personality flaw. It doesn't mean you are cold, and it doesn't mean you are broken. It is quite literally your brain's natural, built-in defense mechanism working exactly the way it was designed to. It is an internal security system keeping watch to protect your fragile peace from taking another devastating hit. Because you are constantly keeping your guard up in public, a secondary trait develops. Your alone time becomes absolutely sacred to you. When you choose to isolate yourself, it isn't because you suddenly hate humanity or because you want to be lonely. You isolate because you are completely starved for peace. Walking through the world with emotional armor on is physically and mentally exhausting. Your brain is constantly scanning for threats, reading between the lines, and trying to predict everyone's next move. Choosing to be by yourself is the only time you can finally, safely, take that heavy armor off. Solitude is the quiet sanctuary where you get to step out of the chaos, sort through your tangled thoughts, and process everything you've been forced to suppress. It is how you lower your nervous system's alarm bells and completely recharge your battery so you can face the world again. When you live through a traumatic experience or an extended period of chaos, the absolute worst part of it is the total loss of control. You learn what it feels like to have the rug violently pulled out from under your feet without warning. To cope with that terrifying feeling, you develop an intense, almost desperate craving for extreme stability, predictability, and safety. You want rules, you want structures, and you want to know exactly what is coming next. This deep-seated fear of the unknown quickly turns you into a chronic overthinker and an obsessive overpreparer. You don't just make a plan, you make a plan B, a plan C, and a safety net just in case those fail too. Your mind constantly plays a game of mental chess, mapping out every single worst-case scenario and figuring out how to survive it before it even happens. It is a grueling, non-stop coping mechanism designed to ensure that you are never caught off guard or left unprotected ever again. This obsessive need to control your environment inevitably breeds a fierce, unyielding sense of hyper-independence. You become the ultimate "I'll do it myself" person. You stop asking for help entirely, even when you are drowning in work, stress, or responsibilities. You don't avoid asking for help because you think you're better than everyone else. You avoid it because your past experiences have taught you a brutal lesson. Depending on other people is a massive liability that usually ends in disappointment, rejection, or heartbreak. You tell yourself that if you want something done right, or if you want to ensure you don't get hurt, you have to rely solely on yourself. But while this fierce independence feels like a shield that keeps you safe, it eventually turns into a cage that keeps you totally isolated. The reality is that you are only human. You were never meant to carry the crushing weight of the entire world on your own back. And learning to let go, even just a fraction, is how you actually get your freedom back. True resilience is almost never what people think it is. It isn't some loud, flashy display of confidence. It isn't bragging about your struggles, and it certainly isn't pretending that nothing ever hurts you. Real resilience is incredibly quiet, deeply private, and completely invisible to the untrained eye. It is the raw, stubborn power that exists inside you when everything else is completely burned to the ground. Think about the single parent who is aggressively juggling 3 different jobs, running on absolutely zero sleep, and feeling completely overwhelmed. Yet they still manage to put a genuine smile on their face the moment they walk through the door, just to make sure their kids feel safe and loved. Think about the person who has been shattered by trauma, who feels completely stuck, but still chooses to get up and show up to therapy week after week, even when it feels like they aren't making any progress at all. That is what real strength looks like. People around you look at you every single day and assume you are doing just fine because you make survival look completely effortless. They don't see the heavy mental warfare you have to fight just to get out of bed in the morning, and they don't understand the sheer depth of what it takes for you to keep moving forward. But resilience doesn't care if other people understand it or validate it. Resilience is simply that small, defiant voice at the very bottom of your soul that refuses to let you lie down and give up, no matter how many times life violently knocks you to the dirt. It is the willingness to keep showing up, to keep breathing, and to take just one more step forward, even when it would be 1,000 times easier to just quit. You don't need to be loud to be strong. Your survival is already all the proof you need. One of the most surprising and beautiful side effects of surviving severe, crushing pain is that it completely rewires how you experience the world, unlocking a deep, profound appreciation for life's smallest and simplest moments. When you have spent a long time trapped in total darkness, chaos, or emotional survival mode, your perspective shifts entirely. Suddenly, the massive, superficial milestones that everyone else chases don't matter nearly as much as the tiny glimmers of peace right in front of you. You start to find an intense sense of comfort in things that most people completely ignore. The warmth of a morning cup of coffee in your hands, the rhythmic, soothing sound of rain hitting the window, or the exact way the afternoon sunlight filters across the room. These seemingly insignificant details start to mean absolutely everything to you. They act as quiet, beautiful proof that despite all the ugliness and chaos you have survived, peace still exists in the world, and it is still accessible to you. It is a gentle reminder that life can still feel good. Alongside this newfound appreciation for peace, surviving deep hardship also breeds a fierce, unyielding, and deeply personal hatred for injustice. When you have spent time on the receiving end of cruelty, betrayal, or unfair treatment, you learn exactly how terrifying and agonizing it feels to be completely powerless, invisible, and without a voice. Because that trauma leaves a permanent mark on your soul. Fairness stops being just a nice abstract concept to you. It becomes an absolute non-negotiable standard for how the world should operate. You develop an immediate, visceral reaction whenever you see someone else being bullied, manipulated, or mistreated. Because you know the exact weight of that pain, you instinctively refuse to sit back and watch it happen to someone else. You become the first person to stand up, open your mouth, and advocate for those who cannot stand up for themselves. You take the very pain that tried to break you, and you turn it into a shield to protect the vulnerable. There is a powerful psychological phenomenon that occurs when a person decides they are completely done being a victim of their past, and experts call it post-traumatic growth. This is the exact pivotal moment where the trajectory of your entire life changes. It happens when you finally stop asking the agonizing, dead-end question of why did this happen to me? And you courageously start asking, what can I actually build from this? This mental shift is how raw, crushing pain is successfully converted into pure, unstoppable purpose. Instead of allowing your past experiences to act as a heavy anchor that keeps you trapped in bitterness, you decide to use them as high-octane fuel to build something meaningful. You take the very bricks that life threw at you to break you down, and you use them to build a completely new foundation for yourself and others. You stop viewing your struggles as a meaningless tragedy and start treating them as a brutal, necessary education that equipped you with the exact tools needed to solve real problems in the world. Think about the person who grew up in absolute poverty, constantly facing the stress of having no clean water or basic resources, who eventually grows up and uses that deep personal agony to launch a massive global foundation that supplies fresh, clean water to thousands of struggling communities. They didn't just forget about their suffering, they actively weaponized it to destroy the very problem that tried to destroy them. That is the ultimate definition of turning pain into purpose. When you reach this level of growth, you realize that your deepest wounds have given you a unique superpower to understand, connect with, and heal specific parts of the world that others completely ignore. You take the darkness you survived and you turn it into a massive, glaring lighthouse for anyone else who is still lost at sea. You choose to make sure your suffering wasn't for nothing, using your story to create solutions, build communities, and ensure the world becomes a slightly better, safer place because you survived. If you sat here today and recognized these exact traits, behaviors, and coping mechanisms within your own life, I need you to take a deep breath and let the reality of that sink in. It means that life tested you with everything it had. It threw its absolute worst storms directly at your face, but it failed completely to break your spirit. You are still breathing, you are still here, you are still standing, and against all odds, you are still actively learning and evolving into a stronger version of yourself. Your past may have shaped the armor you wear, but it does not get to dictate where you walk next. You need to understand, deeply and permanently, that you are entirely worthy of experiencing true peace, genuine love, and complete emotional healing from this day forward. You have paid the price, you have survived the fire, and you deserve to enjoy the quiet sanctuary on the other side of it. Which of these hidden traits hit the closest to home for you today? Did you recognize the hyper-empathy, the guarded heart, or the fierce need for independence in your own daily life? Share your personal thoughts, your struggles, and your breakthroughs in the comments below, because your story might be the exact thing someone else needs to read to feel less alone. And if you are truly ready to stop just surviving and actually start healing from the absolute ground up, do not wait another second. Click on the video that is appearing on your screen right now. We have put together a complete step-by-step psychological guide designed to help you release that heavy weight and reclaim your life. Click it right now, and let's start the next chapter of your journey together.